Hello and welcome. You're listening to the Open Door Philanthropy Conference Special. We brought our microphones down to the Nexus U.S. Summit this year at the United States Institute of Peace. And in plain view of the Lincoln Memorial, over the course of 2 days, we conducted 10 interviews with a diverse array of conference delegates. Some of our guests, like Hank Love from the American Jobs Project, were actively fundraising. And I was able to convince Hank to submit a proposal to the unfunded list that's currently under review. Other guests, like Karen Yanis, were active funders. Karen ran Oprah Winfrey's foundation for 10 years. I was able to convince Karen to join the evaluation committee. We had a bunch of other cool folks sit down with us who were a little bit harder to find. On a personal note, this was just an absolute blast for me. I got the chance to interview some of my favorite people in a beautiful setting. We had amazing conversations. I hope you'll listen and understand that these represent just a microcosm of my own participation in Nexus over the years. I've been attending this conference for almost 9 years now. Each conversation you listen to here, whether I've just met our guest or known them for years, is reminiscent of hundreds of conversations I've had in the halls of Nexus over the years. People ask me often how I've built such an impressive network. And I can tell you that it's because of conversations like these. At the very least, I think you'll find them entertaining. Please note that these were recorded live on site in a less than ideal acoustic circumstance. You can pretty much always hear me because I'm basically Shrek. But sometimes our guests are a little bit harder to hear. We'll do our best to make transcripts available since every word of these conversations were important and interesting. But for now, I hope you enjoy. We're going? Okay, this is Day 2 at the Nexus U.S. Summit and Interview 2. I'm sitting here with Melissa Jane, otherwise known as MJ. Hello, MJ.
Hi, David.
Why don't you start from the beginning? Where are you from?
I'm from New York. I grew up on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, and I live now just across the street from the United Nations. Lived in the city all my life. A few years here in D.C. for college, which was lots of fun, but city girl all the way.
Outstanding. You like New York?
I love New York. I am the quintessential New Yorker. I don't know how you live in a place that doesn't have 24-hour bodegas. It makes no sense to me. Mm-hmm. No pizza at 2 a.m., no Starbucks at 20.
Every New Yorker says, I don't know how, like, you can get Indian food at 3 a.m. And I'm like, I've literally never wanted that.
Indian food at 4 a.m.?
It's never occurred to me. It's not a problem that I knew I had. Although increasingly, we can get Indian food here in D.C. What's the longest you've spent outside of New York?
So I lived in D.C. for 5 years.
Oh, yeah.
I went to GW, where we're pretty close to, and then I worked actually for the DNC before I became a Republican and worked for the Republicans.
Interesting. What did you do at the DNC?
I worked with Terry McAuliffe and Jan Moore, and there I met Donna Brazil, who I later became her Director of Media Affairs.
Really?
And working for the DNC and with the Democrats and on the Kerry campaign made me realize that I'm not a Democrat, and that that was not where I was most comfortable. I kind of aimlessly floated around for a bit, and then John McCain was really what inspired me to switch parties, and I think that's the quintessential Republican. That's a Republican that can make all Americans proud. Mm-hmm.
You yourself were a candidate for office.
I was. I ran for city council in Manhattan in District 4. I ran as a young Republican because I wanted young Republicans and Republicans in general to believe that they had a voice, because I do not believe that our president, Donald Trump, represents the Republican Party, the Republican morals and values, nor the morals and values that I hold dear as a self-identified Republican.
I think there is and I'm very excited about it, a stark increase in the number of women filing to run for office currently. And in general, though, these are people who are, like you, don't agree with Donald Trump, but are running as Democrats. One, I think you were a little bit ahead of the trend on that, and also chose to run as a Republican in New York City.
Yeah.
You've, I think no one's ever accused you of not being unique. It's probably
or not trying to live aligned with what I think is the best and most moral way to live.
What we do here at Unfunded Lists is for people who have a good social impact idea and I think running for office for a lot of people is a good social impact idea. Right? Just because you have a good idea like that doesn't mean you know how to raise money for it. What we do is we try to help those folks. You've helped out with some proposals in the past. Thanks very much.
Absolutely, I love it.
But in general, how do you? Sorry, David Jeffy. Quick interruption there. Let me start in. So tell me about, so I know some places have public financing. Did you raise money for your campaign?
Yes, so we were unique in the sense that we were able to raise an enormous amount of money in small donations, which was my strategy.
Enormous?
Yeah, well, for a city council race. So the way most Republicans run in New York is they either self-fund or they get a couple of large donors to come together and they raise that money, and they choose not to take public funds. My goal was to get as many people as possible to give us just $10 to prove that the numbers were there. So, for example, we raised in...
Did I give you $10?
You...
I think I did.
I think you gave me money, and you wrote probably the nicest testimonial for my website, equating me to Senator Olympia Snowe, which I would say is probably the greatest political compliment I'd ever received, because I don't think there's...
Olympia's fantastic.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And if she's listening, hello, Olympia.
Yeah, Olympia, we love you.
She was friends with my mom back home.
And that's what made the compliment even more so special, because I know that you've known her on a personal level, and weren't just speaking from, I can't curse on the air, can I? Sorry.
Oh, you can.
Oh,
this is an adult podcast.
Wonderful.
I would not want to deny you your full range of expression.
And I like to express myself
yes.
Quite a bit. I think but the cool thing about our campaign was, so my Republican opponent on the other side, she raised, we dropped out a bit early, but she over the course of the whole time, she raised around the same amount that we did, but only from a handful of donors. And we had over 170 donors raise us $56,000. So it wasn't in our camp. That's why we got a lot of attention, because people were like, whoa, why are so many people willing to give $5 or $10 or $15 or $20 to a female Republican candidate on the Upper East Side of Manhattan? And I think it was our message. We were very clear that we were post-partisan. I don't think transpartisan or bipartisan really works. It's not working. I'm post-partisan. I could care less what your party affiliation is. I just want to sit down and figure out what these problems are. And we were also very intent on moving forward an idea which I like to call progressive conservatism, which is the concept that returns to the morals and values of the party as Teddy Roosevelt saw it, as Lincoln saw it, as our founding fathers saw original republicanism. And as you said, I think you thought I was a bit ahead of the curve on some of the stuff. Interestingly, the Republican Party in New York was adamantly opposed to this concept of progressive conservatism. But just last week, I got word that they launched a new Republican movement to revitalize Republicans in New York, and it's called Progress Republicans. So, thank you, new
Trendsetter.
chair. Yeah. So I think that it's just, I think what was exciting and fun about doing this...
That must be, you must find that there's some resentment there, right? Because you would have preferred they agreed with you.
They agreed with me when I was doing it.
It must also feel kind of good. I think you might be right to claim some credit in pushing them towards that, right? I
think it's exciting that the Republican Party in New York is no longer afraid of the word progress, because you shouldn't be. But more importantly, I think as a Republican in New York, we need to remind ourselves that we actually are different than other Republicans, other parts of the country. But I also think it's a reminder that the Republican Party, as the Democratic Party, are broad, beautiful social movements that encompass a lot of different things. I am a Republican that would fight to the death of me for transgender and LGBTQ rights in general. And that was problematic when I was running. And then near the end of my race, all of a sudden, the Republican Club in New York is hosting an event on gay Republicans. Wow, that's fantastic. So I think we need to push the envelope in places like New York so that Republicans elsewhere don't feel like they have to be inhibited by the Donald Trumps and the Roy Moores of the world.
Absolutely. You should definitely not be intimidated by Roy Moore.
No.
Especially after you've seen him ride a horse.
Yes, to the polling station with his great hat on. Great hat on.
That is not. If anybody's Googling that now, that's not a how-to on how to ride a horse. Do not do it that way. When you're not running for office and when you're not attending Nexus summits, what are you doing with yourself?
So I run a company called Passion for a Purpose, and we're a social impact consultancy. So we get to work with companies, individuals, and charities, helping them just get to the next place that they want to go to, or to start something that they're passionate about. Really, whatever your end goal is, as long as it's to make the world a better place for someone else, we'll pop in and help you out to do that. Whether that means building on a board, fundraising, designing campaigns, hosting events, really help anyway and bring on the people that we can find that are the best in your space and with the things that you need, try to bring them on pro bono. So, I work with a great guy over at Fox Digital who does, he's deeply passionate about social causes, and he jumps on and helps us with a lot of our digital marketing and websites for a lot of the clients that we work with, and he does it because he's passionate about helping. And so I decided a couple years ago to use my network to provide access to people who are not as fortunate as I am, getting to attend cool things like this, and having the friends that we have from an organization like Nexus, that we could widen that and really broaden what it means to build a culture of philanthropy around the world.
Wow, that's awesome. So I obviously know about Passion for a Purpose. I get some sort of Facebook notification on basically a daily basis.
And an email, I'm sure.
It's actually it's impressive to me. I think another challenge that a lot of the unfunded folks that send me proposals have, and one that I have as well, is I'm doing good work and I want people to know about it. And you're competing with a lot of noise out there. Generally, I always know what MJ's up to because I think you do a really good job of. I'm a member of the Facebook group Team MJ, So talk to me a little bit about your strategy, because you're doing a really good. Everybody's up to speed, right? And you do have a good network and everything. And I think a lot of the folks should be able to learn from how you do that.
So I think it was both a matter of a little bit of luck, but also a matter of circumstance. I like to look at Scott over at Charity Water. Harrison is a good example. Here's a guy that was a big, I remember because I was a kid in the 90s.
Club promoter,
right? Big club promoter. He threw the hottest parties, he had the coolest friends. Everyone wanted to hang out with Scott Harrison. And then one day he kind of woke up like we all do and said, well, I'm not going to do this forever. There's only so many bottles you can pop. And
I assume every club promoter has, at one day, wakes up and says, I have to stop doing this.
I'm not going out tonight. I can't. And I think that's kind of, not that I was, I did anything like Scott, but that was kind of the sense in my mind was that, I had this huge network, lots of friends. Let's start getting, and I threw parties just, in college and high school, and I said, well, if people are willing to come out for a great party, let's see if they're willing to come out if I give them a little bit of free booze, some cupcakes, and they're willing to spend 10 minutes listening about something that I'm working on. And so I tried it for the first time ever. I remember it was in 2006. I hosted a party the way I normally would, but it was for a charity instead. The charity was the focus of the evening. And, I'd only planned for about 75 people and 200 people showed up. And it was an enormous success. And I thought, oh, wow, okay. Well, I don't even think this many people would have showed up had I just been throwing a silly party or a fun party or, hey, let's get smashed party. But they were really pumped about coming out and learning. And I thought, all right, well, I'm going to keep doing that. And the network grew and grew and grew. And there's definitely something to be said about oversaturation. I do definitely have those people who tell me you put too much out there. But what I don't...
I would disagree. It's never some people do that, right? Yeah. And some of them are in this room right now.
Yes.
Right? And I'm just like, oh my God, another email from you. This one says the same thing as the last one, and you're asking me for too much. I find yours are just... it is frequent, but it's also, I would say, you have a very genuine tone with the communication. It's not very staid, very clear. It's very obvious that MJ wrote this post.
Yes, I think that's anything to me that answers your question the best way is that I do maintain complete control over our messaging and our visual presentation to the world because I say to a lot of people, if you're going to hire a social media firm, you're going to get somebody who's going to look at you as a 9-to-5 job. And when you look at a project as a 9-to-5 job, it's not going to work. So you're working with refugees, and at 3 a.m., a story breaks about Rohingya. Well, no one's going to tweet about that you hired until maybe 9, 10, 11, maybe noon the next day when they realize, oh, something happened to the Rohingya refugees. I would get a message, I'd wake up, I would tweet, we must help the Rohingyas now, quickly. Email me, and get up and start working. And that's always been...
Don't bang the table.
That's hard. I feel like too many people definitely outsource their messaging. I think there's a lot to be said about keeping that coming from you and making the time to commit to your social media, to your emails, and to being the voice of your own brand.
Mm-hmm. I also think it's probably true. You seem to enjoy it. You do enjoy writing those posts.
I love it.
That's terrific. So one of our applicants from last round is here as well, and I know that you've been helping her out in her cause. I think she's very lucky to have that help. I think a lot of the folks that apply to us would like to have MJ's help with their project and stuff. How do you like to be approached from social entrepreneurs who want your help?
Sure, just shoot me an email. Shoot me an email, get my number from Dave, whatever you want. Shoot me an email and tell me what your project's about. Tell me where you're not reaching your goals and what you think the reason is. And then I'm happy to schedule a call, sit down, have a conversation, and let you know where and how I can help. I literally spend about half my day talking to people who say, this is my problem, what should I do? And I find that really at the end of the day, most of the answers are best solved by making a couple of introductions to people that may inspire or lead or support. I don't even mean financially, just that person that I think would be great for them. I was working recently with a survivor, and I knew that I wasn't equipped for all the conversations that I was having with this young woman, and I knew I was going through her social media, and I realized that she wrote beautiful poetry. And so I thought, wow, I should call up Brooke Axtell, who's a member of Nexus, who performed on stage with Katy Perry, spoken word about domestic violence at the Grammys. And I called up Brooke and I said, would you talk to this young woman? You're a survivor, you're a writer. I think she can be inspired, and I think that relationship would flourish. And I think the simplest solutions are looking inwards and being honest with your friends and saying, I know someone that think can really use your help. And I don't think a lot of us say no when people say, I need your help.
Absolutely. That has been my experience as well. It's one of the most powerful things we can do at the Unfunded List is introductions. We have connected people with the folks that ended up writing them very large checks on occasion. And one of my favorite expressions is something my grandmother used to say: "There's always more money in the Rolodex than there is in the bank account," which is true for Mosses and Smiths. It's also true for Buffetts and Gates and Slims. They can. Everybody can sort of do this stuff, and so it's great to hear you say that. And you have suggested contact for some of our folks in the past.
You can go straight through the Unfunded List. You tell Dave Moss you'd like to sit up and meet with me. He'll forward your email along. I am anyone that knows Dave is a family to me.
And you will be evaluating proposals for us this round?
I cannot wait. Finally finished my PhD, so.
Oh yes, which is another thing you didn't even mention. Amongst all of this activity, also managed to get. Are you finished with your PhD?
I handed in my doctoral dissertation about 3 weeks ago, and they approved it for the defense.
Defend soon?
Yes, I'm defending. I'm not going to tell anybody when I'm defending it. It's happening in the next 30 days. I'm not telling anybody just in case I fail. And I want to be able to spend the 24 hours sulking under my bed with my puppies and a bottle of wine. Maybe you will come and hide under the bed with me.
Maybe. Let me know. Shoot me an email.
Yes.
We'll see if we can schedule something. You shouldn't. It is not the end of the world if you don't get through it on your first
7 years.
both of my parents have them.
$150,000 feels like a lot of things to give up right now if I don't pass.
But I grew up on a college campus, and I remember often sometimes my parents' friends. It was very strange to me as a child. I remember when one of them, when he finally finished his PhD, and this guy's 45 years old, and I'm in 6th grade, and I'm just this guy just finished going to school. How long is all this going to last?
I'm 35. I get that. Yep.
But getting a PhD is very serious stuff. You need to expand the entirety of human knowledge a little bit.
Yeah.
If you don't come up with something new, then they're not going to give you that degree.
Right. My professor always says, it's like getting your union card. You gotta prove to everyone that you have something incremental, even incremental, to add to the body of knowledge that you're pursuing. And in that capacity, I hope that they've read all 632 pages and they are comfortable with my
That's a lot of pages.
Incremental, if you can call that 632 pages, information that I've tried to provide.
Well, the proposals that I sent you this round will be shorter than 630. If anybody is out there with a 632-page grant proposal, don't send that one.
We don't want it.
It will be really hard for me to get you good feedback on that. We did get one that was 45 pages last round, and I was surprised a couple of evaluators read it. But in general, the shorter stuff is folks. Obviously, our evaluators are very busy people.
Well, we make time for those who need it, and I think that's what makes Dave's Unfunded List unique. He's opened a platform for people to really reach out and say, help me be better, help me achieve my goals, tell me what I'm doing wrong, and set me on that right path.
And we definitely do help them, but I honestly don't really think about it that way. I want the world to be a better place, and these are the people. These are the people that can do it. So, ultimately, they're going to help me more than maybe I can be more helpful right now. But ultimately, they're the ones that are going to go out and they're going to stop human trafficking. They're going to save the planet. They're going to conserve the trees, save the water.
It's deeply inspiring.
Whatever it is that they're going to do.
When you send them, it's deeply inspiring.
That's a lot of fun.
Wow, I always think the same thing. Why didn't this get funded? Unfunded list.
Yes,
Here we go.
I wonder as well. And if there are funders out there listening, the list is available on the website, and there are links to donate to all of the proposals that made the list last round.
Proposals.
Really good ideas up there.
Too.
Thank you very much, MJ. I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of the summit.
Thank you so much. We are so grateful for having me on, Dave.
No problem. Thanks.